What's up YouTube, PiLiPiLi here, coming to you with some of the educational content. Today we're going to look at the NEEB versus CLEM series that was played at the DreamHack Winter Finals in their group stage. It was a best of 3 that they played, that was 3 games. And the reason I wanted to choose those games, the reason I chose those games is because CLEM, every single game went for the eBay block. That has been becoming a very popular strategy. I'm kind of curious how popular it is for you guys on ladder. You guys want to tell me how often do you guys get eBay blocked? Just let me know, because for me personally, as a grandmaster player, I maybe get eBay blocked 1 game in 10 games. So it's not that common, but it's still something you need to know how to deal with. So let me know in the comment section if you guys actually ever get eBay blocked, and what rank you are, because I'm actually curious how often does it happen at our level. But we're gonna jump into it. Their very first game on Death Aura, and we're not gonna go through the whole game. I'm sure you guys can find somebody else or watch the cast itself who actually analyzes the whole game, but I just want to focus on how NEEB dealt with the eBay block and how he sets him up for 3 base economy overall, like how he plays the early game. So he starts off a little weird. He makes a pylon on the low ground. I think this kind of helped him a lot versus eBay block actually. So maybe this might become part of the meta if eBay block stays prevalent. This might become more and more common, because what this does is actually gives you vision for the eBay block. Because usually the eBay block, if you scout off the gateway, you miss the SCV. Plus, as you can see, CLEM is like kind of hiding it. He's sending it through, not through the middle of the map, but the different pathing. That way the probe will not see it. So if you have your wall here, you don't actually gonna see the eBay when it starts. You can't really pull probes on time. So then you have to think of something else, but I'll go over it a little bit later. But anyways, NEEB scouted a little bit for proxy. He comes in, he sees the eBay block, suddenly pulls 5 probes. I think that's the magic number. And so basically, if you guys do see eBay block starting, I think this is the best thing to do. Because we've seen a lot of the Korean Protoss players just take their 3rd base as a natural, which I think is doable, but it is kind of a struggle. Like I watched Parting struggle against Beyond, losing a bunch of probes to HELLIONs. I watched Stats struggle against TY, losing a bunch of probes to HELLIONs once again. It's just much harder, right? It's much easier to just delay this, delay your natural, I guess, kill the eBay block, and just play a normal game from there. Because doing that, Terran delays themselves too, so it's not too bad to pull SCV. He makes sure that SCV can build. That's a very important part. As soon as SCV comes to build, he makes sure to harass it, because he doesn't want eBay to get more HP. And then he just kills it, and that's it. He made the Cyber before it, and then he just goes for the Nexus. At the same time, he scouted, and he saw everything he needed to see. Because basically, the most common follow-up to the eBay block is HELLION harass, because most Protosses do take their 3rd base as their natural, and then HELLIONs just have a lot of freedom. But NEEB scouted pretty much everything. He knows that this is a factory before this command center. He knows that there's Marine in the reactor, so he knows there's no Reaper. And he kind of knows that most likely CLEM is going to swap the factory with the barracks so he can pump double HELLION, right? But they don't have to, but that's kind of the assumptions that most Protosses will. So then he just pretty much takes his gas, plays a normal macro, makes an Adept. On this map, it's kind of different, right? Because the ramp is very tiny. The wall can be made super early. He continues making probe. He scouts with the very first Adept, which is very important because you do want to know, did they swap? Are they making HELLIONs or are they not, right? So that's an important scout, and that Adept is going to achieve that. And he makes another Adept in the center at home. He chrono boosted burst for both first 2 Adepts. And this is the thing I like the most. He skips the tech. I think that's one thing that a lot of Protosses got wrong when the eBay block was just starting to get popular, is that would still go for tech very early. Where, like, if you take your 3rd base, you might kind of have to. But here he kind of delays it, just so he can get shield batteries. Because shield batteries is what saves you versus HELLIONs. Because, like, 3 HELLIONs can one-shot probe, but once you kill one of the HELLIONs, then the battery can out-heal a lot of the probes. You will lose a lot less, and it's only 100 middles. It's absolutely worth it. So he scouts with the shade. He sees that there's HELLIONs, and he already walks away. Actually, let's look at the shade. This is like one of the smartest ways to shade. So this is something that most people will not do. He shades, but he walks backwards. He knows exactly that if he shades here, the shade will make it to the natural, which is all he needs to see. Like, makes it to the ramp, basically, right? To see what units there are. And then he walks backwards. Because if it is Hellions, and your Adept is still here, then Hellions will actually jump on it and kill it. You see, that shade was like perfectly on the ramp. So you can actually, he sees the Hellions. Perhaps it wasn't too perfect. Maybe it was needed to be a little more forward. That way you can actually see the factory that got swapped. But it was pretty much perfect, and the Reaper isn't saved, right? Because if Adept was still here, the Hellions would right now jump it, right? And you would take damage. Probably wouldn't lose it, but take an extra damage for no reason. So back at home, he has two Adepts and a Sentry, 2 shield batteries very early, and only then he makes his tech, which is a robotic span. So in this game, there is no medevac. A lot of the times, Terrans do go for that proxy starport to make a medevac and to elevate Hellions really fast into the main base. But that's not the case this game. It's just Hellions that come to the front. They try harass, but he has a force field. That's why he built a sentry. He basically does not lose probes. So now he's just extremely far ahead. Like at this point, like I think Terran is just kind of bamboozled. Like he actually takes a third base off of 1 gateway, which is super greedy. But it's perfectly fine because he knows it's Hellions. Like Terran can't do anything, right? Like there's a tank, and Clem will try to like push with tank cycling, whatever. But it's just very hard because you just lost 4 Hellions and a Reaper. Your build order was like relying on doing damage with it, and you didn't do any. So now like Protoss just has all the freedom in the world to play as greedy as possible. So he just Chrono Boost probes, even goes for Robo Bay before extra gateways. And then he sets him up very nicely. As you can see, he has Observer, a couple units here, 2 Stalkers, and a Shield Battery here. And he has Observer to scout. So he scouts that there is a third base. So he sees a command center. He sees that there is a tech lab upgrading something. It's most likely gonna be Invisible Banshee. Sometimes they do it like a fake. They just start and cancel it. But there's no reason not to prepare in advance. And this is exactly what he does. 2 Stalkers, Observer, and once again, those shield batteries that he made at 3-minute mark, or like right before 3-minute mark, super useful now. Because if 1 Banshee comes, they can't one-shot probes. Because they attack the probe, it gets healed. They attack the probe, it gets healed. They need 2 Banshees to one-shot. So now it's like an incredible situation for NEEB already, because he's perfectly prepared for the Banshee. I think he lost his Observer, but he saw the 3rd CC, so he knows there's no way it's a super committed all-in, so he knows he can defend it with minimal. He's chrono boosting the Colossus, that is very early, has 3 gateways, has a shield battery in the 3rd. Rescouts after losing Observer with the Phoenix, just to make sure. Sees that there's no units at home, knows he's getting pushed. Pulls all the army right away. I think, yeah, exactly. So, he saw that the entire army is here, so he just pulled the Stalkers to the 3rd, because he knows he needs all the units to defend. This is kind of problematic. It would be problematic if there was 2 Banshees at the same place. If those 2 Banshees were both here, that would be a problem, because then Clem would go and one-shot probes, but he can't do now because of the shield battery. He can probably, I think, get maybe some of this. The battery doesn't reach, but can't do much. He easily defends here, because he has Colossus, he has Pepega overcharge, just focus fires the tanks, kills the Marines, loses the Colossus, which is actually pretty bad. But overall, like a pretty clean hold, considering that he has 62 probes. A pretty fair hold, and Banshees didn't really do anything. Yeah, as I said, the Banshee tries to kills like 1 probe after like 20 hits. Totally not worth to go for this Banshee when that's the only damage you're gonna do. Then he adds 2 more gases, double forge, and just goes for macro from now on. The game drags on for another like 11 minutes, and Clem is not out of it yet because it still has 52 SCVs, has 3 racks, 5 on the way. It's still a fairly even game. But I feel like the way NEEB played out the early game was absolutely perfect, because if you watch any other Protoss, they will crumble when this happens. They get eBay blocked, they panic, they lose a bunch of probes to Hellions, and Banshee comes, does a bit more, then the tank push comes, they lose a bunch more, and then Terran just has 3 CC behind and just... I think NEEB played the early game very well, and he played well throughout this game. I'm not gonna go... because I mostly want to focus on the early game. Jump to the game 2, which I think... that was a game that NEEB kind of butchered it. I feel like this game NEEB was just making a lot of really weird mistakes. kind of uncharacteristic of him. But the early game was kind of similar. We'll scroll through a little faster, but he does pretty much the same thing. Falls off on the natural. I do believe that is to see the eBay block. He scouts for the proxy racks, sees the eBay block, pulls 5 probes, deals with it, kills it, makes an expansion, and they just plays a normal game from there. Right? The one thing I think, I watched the VOD of this game, and NEEB forgot his second pylon. One of those uncharacteristic mistakes. So if CLEM were to go for the Reaper first, NEEB would just like pretty much, I don't want to say lose the game, but he would be fairly far behind, because Reaper at the normal timing comes to your base at like 2 minutes and like 25 seconds, depending on the map. But NEEB can't even start his first unit till then. So Reaper would come now when the Adept just starts. He kind of just got lucky that there was no Reaper. And then he just goes for Stargate. Once again, super fast shield battery to protect himself. And I think that's something that every Protoss should do. This is one thing that there's no reason not to, right? Like this game, he needed tech earlier, but I guess that's because he was supply blocked on gateway units. Normally he would make more gateway units before doing that, I guess. But yeah, I feel like this trick is every Protoss should do. Like it's not even a trick. Like you just make 2 shield batteries, and look at also the positioning. The way he positions them is that he doesn't interrupt mining. One of the biggest mistakes a lot of Protoss do, they'll just slap a shield battery randomly here, and then the probes will like have to like walk all the way around it to mine, or there will be the middle patch will be completely blocked or something like that. But the way NEEB does it, like if you look at the probe mining, it doesn't delay it for a second. It's perfect, right? Like this shield battery doesn't hurt gas, doesn't hurt middles, nothing. Same with this one. Middles mining perfectly, and it still covers the whole middle line. So that's something that every Protoss should look out for, like the positioning of the shield batteries. But yeah, then he goes Phoenixes, which is another way to follow up. And when the Hellions come, once again, there's a shield battery, so it already helps healing. And then Hellions come here, and see, this is where shield battery would help, because if there was no shield battery, all those probes would be dead, because you know they already tanked like a bunch of shots, but now he only lost 1. So that's like, by investing 100 minerals into the protection early, he basically like saved himself like 5 probes. So super important stuff. After that, the game kind of becomes weird. He just goes for well, I don't want to say it became weird. It's just kind of normal, you know. He plays Phoenixes into Colossus. I just think the way he played was a little weird. He took some questionable fights here later on, but we're not gonna go over that. Basically, that's the setup. He makes a he makes Robo Bay, and as soon as he makes a Robo Bay, he's gonna take a 3rd. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he goes for the 3rd once the Robo Bay is starting. There's some push, but he's perfectly fine against it. He has like 5 Phoenixes, 3 Adepts, a Sentry, and a Mortal coming up. And he's perfectly fine, just needs to stay behind shield battery. Once again, the shield battery being helpful. The 1 shield battery he made at 3 minutes is once again helping him defend. And yeah, we're not gonna watch the rest of this game. I don't think it kind of matters, because all we cared about is like how he defends the eBay block into the Hellion drop, which is the most common follow-up, right? So just to go over it really fast, 3 minute shield batteries, and then you just spam Phoenixes. You use Phoenixes to lift off the Hellions, and Adepts also help. So that was another way you can stuff. And he kills the medevac. Somehow the Hellions survived. I don't know how that happened. I guess Adepts were kind of not focused farming. But this is a perfect situation, right? Like Terran is on 29 SCVs, but you on 34 probes. You have full map control with the Phoenixes. You have Adepts. You chrono boosting probes. You're gonna retake gases and play a normal game from there. Kind of depending on your style, you can kind of do whatever you want. But you know, Phoenix Colossus is like the most logical option. Now let's look at the game 3. I think that's the game 3 is interesting because NEEB actually went for the different response this time, and he actually did what I hate to do, and I think it's probably like the weakest thing to do. But he made it. He still played it perfectly, I think, because he just took a 3rd base against eBay block, and yeah, it worked out perfectly well for him. The reason I don't like taking the 3rd base is because when you take a 3rd base as your natural, you have to go Stargate. There's just no way around it. He gets eBay blocked. He goes to take his natural. He's like, oh shit, he took my he made eBay block, whatever. Just gonna take a 3rd base, perfectly fine. 20 supply, exactly the same thing. but went for Cyber first, perfectly fine. Makes a pylon here. eBay gets cancelled since Clem sees that he took another base. Once again, he scouts Marine, scouts factories, scouts the barracks with a reactor on it. Knows exactly what's going on. Knows there's a high opportunity for Hellions. And one thing he does is that he skips his warp gate for a fairly long amount of time, just so he can get Stargate faster. Because that's kind of the why I don't like picking third, is because you have to go Stargate. There's just no other way, and NEEB knows that. That's why he's cutting the warp gate to get Stargate faster. And he's also making adepts only, because making stalkers just requires more gas, and Stargate Phoenix is not as efficient as Adept Phoenix. So he keeps making probes, makes a pylon here, which I thought was very interesting, but I'm not really sure he needed it. Like this pylon, like I thought was one of those things that I didn't get. Maybe there's like scenario where it would be useful, but as you can see, he's 33 supply out of 54. He has 21 supply of units he can make before he needs the next pylon. So I really didn't understand like the purpose of this pylon, because without it, he would still like far from supply blocked. But once again, before the 3-minute mark, he already has one shield battery at least, and I'm sure he's making, yeah, right here. So 3-minute mark, shield batteries, that's just a golden timing for everything. And he Chrono Boost Phoenix right away, because you know the Hellions are most likely to come, and they are. Because it's just a strong follow-up. It pretty much, I feel like Terran doesn't really have that much of a downside of it. Because it seemed like even in game 1 and 2, where Hellions didn't do all that much, Terran was still perfectly fine. Even though they delay their natural, you know, eBay block happens, you know. After all of that said and done, even if Terran doesn't do ridiculous amount of damage, they're like, they might be a little bit behind, but they're never like dead. But if Protoss takes a lot of damage, they're just dead. I feel like this build just become very popular. I think like TY popularized it, and then Jan was doing it a bunch of stuff. But once again, by the time Hellions come, he has 3 Adepts and basically 2 Phoenixes. This time he didn't get to get the second one on time. Perhaps he didn't have a Chrono Boost on time or something. But doesn't lose anything. This was actually like absolutely perfect. He heals 3 Phoenixes. It's actually insane. Like, I'm pretty sure like when I play this kind of stuff, like I just lose my whole middle line. But the way NEEB sets up is perfect. He sits on the ramp. He has a pylon here, so if Hellions do come from here for some fucking reason, you will see it. And then he has a Phoenix right there, and the second one coming up. It would be probably nice if he had 2, but he lifts one of them, kills one of the Hellions, and as soon as they're down to 2 Hellions, they can't kill anything. So 0 probes died. Because as soon as they don't have 3 Phoenix or 3 Hellions, they can't one-shot probes. And when you can't one-shot probes, Shield Battery just out-heals it. So that was like as perfect as it gets. And then now he has Phoenix control, full control of the map. He just goes for the Robo Bay, because Phoenix Colossus, as I said, is the most common follow-up. He scouts, he sees that it's like 3 racks plus delayed starport. That's one criticism I had for NEEB this game when I watched this game. I guess we'll watch it in full. Is that he kind of knew that he was getting all in, but he kind of didn't prepare for it. Maybe he was very confident in the fact that he's gonna hold, but yeah, like he takes the 3rd base, which I think is perfectly fine. He's ahead and he knows it. He knows the timings. He knows that Terran is still in his base, and on this map it's fairly like it's more of a defensive map, so it's kind of easy to defend. But I do think he was playing like way too greedy. He makes an Immortal, which is good. Makes a Colossus right after. Keeps probing up, but that, you know, as you can see, Terran is on 38 SCV. The one thing I liked is NEEB like was kind of baiting the army to stay here, so he can't lift more SCVs, and he just recalls it. And then there's like 6 Marines and a Cyclone that's just kind of stuck in Terran's main base. And but yeah, I do think he was just being a little too greedy. No shield batteries here yet. Colossus coming, but he's also going double Forge. Like, you're getting all in, sir. Like, Clem is adding 5 racks, no gas, only 1 event. Like, there's no, like, Clem is not planning to macro this game, and NEEB is like, oh, I'm gonna go double Forge before like extra Gabrius, you know. Like, I feel like maybe 1 Forge would be okay just for +1 attack or something, but it was far, like, yeah, 2 Forge was too much, and I think that's why he's gonna struggle, even though he's like fairly ahead, and he's like on 61 probes, which I think the maximum he needed was like 55 or so, at least in my opinion. But once he gets Colossus, he just attacks, lifts some tanks, and the Colossus just absolutely murder Marines. Just does need to do some micro, but he has 3 shield batteries behind, he can always retreat to them. There's another Colossus on the way, and now a bunch of gateways kicked in, so he finally can actually spend his money, which he has a lot. 64 probes is a little too much. Like, he was definitely being too greedy. Can't even probably spend all his middle bank. I think he needed charge much earlier. Like, I would much rather have him have charge in this situation than 1-1. Having zealots that can just bounce on top of the siege tanks is huge in this kind of scenario. Especially consider how little marauders there are. It's like mostly marines. If you just get rid of tanks and marines just die to Colossus. CLEM tries to set it up, but yeah, NEEB just has a little too much. Perfectly holds and wins the series. But I think this game was like specifically the only reason NEEB won, in my opinion, how good his defense was. The early game, like, he didn't panic against eBay block. He knew exactly what to do. He knew that CLEM will try to do that stuff. He knew that it will be HELLION follow-up, and he held everything perfect. His shield battery positioning was good. His shield battery timing was always good. He always had enough units to defend himself while not overextending, and he always like followed up with a very solid macro. I think that was a great PvT series by NEEB, and also if you guys watch NEEB versus TY, that was also a very strong NEEB performance for the matchup, which was very nice to see considering NEEB was not performing as well as he usually is a couple of years ago. But he definitely redeemed himself this tournament with an incredible performance in his group stage and against TY in the playoffs. Yeah, I hope you guys learned a thing or two. As I said before, let me know in the comments if you guys do get eBay blocked a lot on ladder or not. I'm generally wondering how common of a strategy that is. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe. Go ahead, watch my other videos. We're trying to grind to 1,000 subscribers and like 4,000 hours watched, whatever it is that is required to be a YouTube partner. We'll be releasing a lot more videos, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments if you guys have any suggestions for me. Maybe perhaps you want me to analyze certain series. I'll gladly do that. Yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.